Where do the kids go after you conquered Tartaria? Your orphan crises of the 1800s. I mean, come on, people. Did the people of these generations have no morality, no conscience, no love? Oh, they were starving because they just had a giant world war. You know, kids are even smoking because, well, my whole family was murdered. Treating them like slaves. Surprise, surprise. The Khazars. So nice of them to turn the children into slaves. These mean witches, like the Catholic nuns of those days, drugging mothers and taking their child for a satanic sacrifice. A lot of horrible stuff going on, guys. Why? Why did the earth get so evil? It's really important that you clean our floors and you work on machines. It's just super sad, guys. I mean, just really, really disturbing. When you stop and have a heart for God and a heart for Yeshua, you know, you can really see that this is really messed up. And they try to tell us, they rewrite our history. Oh, this is survival because, you know, everybody's starving. And it's greed. It's the love of money. Putting these poor innocent children that are supposed to be children to work in your factories because all the adults were killed at war. Wars that you caused. Just absolutely terrible, guys. Hello, my brothers and sisters of Tartaria. Welcome to Quest for Tartaria. Poland! Poland! Look at this stuff at Poland, guys. One of the westernmost areas of the Tartarian Empire, you know, back in the day. Sometimes, even in America, I was watching one video with a lady. She found a bridge in the middle of the forest, and on the other side of the bridge, where cars should have went through, or wagons, huge mound of, you guessed it, mud. It's pretty crazy, guys. When traveling through Middle Earth, or the mines of Moria, then you find out this is actually underneath our feet, guys. I mean, there's a lot of this all over the place, even in New York. Yeah, guys, I mean, we are sitting a lot higher than we used to. There it is. And it's always ironic when you look at this picture. It looks like it used to be dome buildings. Surprise, surprise. Sunken into the earth. Pretty interesting. Well, on Google Maps, the place looks like a big farmland now. The pictures were from the 1870s. Looks like they probably demolished it. All that city's underground or something. I don't know. I can't really see where it is. I mean, but yeah, we'll look at some of the details. There was an interesting thing that I glanced over. It looked like it was made in the 1800s, which is really crazy too, that would be weird. Let's zoom out real quick and see where we're at in the world. Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, still in the Tartarian Empire, right? Above Afghanistan, below Kazakhstan. Yeah, pretty interesting. Alright, so on Amazon it says photographed in an 1870 poster. Okay, it says here the ruins of the rabbit built by Alushki Narza near Kuljand, present-day Tajikistan, already part of the Russian Empire, ca. So 1865 through 1872. But does it say when the ruins were made? Oh, just a picture. Near there, okay. That's interesting. The world pre-flood, or pre-Mudflood, was amazing. They had depictions of the pyramids of Cairo staying on top of the stumps of the ancient giant trees. If you're not familiar with that, there's ancient giant biblical trees that were cut down that reduced humans' lives down to 120 years. So yeah, there's pictures of them on these old maps that show them on the hills. So like, you look right here on the right side, you got the pyramids, Sphinx, and different things. They got some other maps to show as well. Shows them right here. Sphinx, you know, kind of submerged all in these little hills. And it's just really interesting, you know, like how it's covered like that. Bigger version of the map, but yeah, you see it right there. It's just really interesting, and I'm believing the Mudflood shook the earth. The whole earth shook with the earthquake, and sunk this stuff even more. We've had to excavate it and stuff, you know. Just unbelievable. You guys remember when Genghis Khan went to Africa and he took it over? And he conquered all of Africa before he started his campaign into Europe. Well, in Zimbabwe, they got these big ruins, and they're real big, like castle ruins. And, you know, and I mean, I'm sure because even Africans and black people were part of Tartaria, and Asia, and, you know, white people, everybody was part of Tartaria. You know, so I'm sure a lot of people had a hand in this, but it could have been, you know, orchestrated by the great Khan himself. He's climbing up it. You can see right here, and I'm going to try, let's see. But yeah, I mean, it was a castle. Look at that, guys. Definitely a castle in Africa. You know. So yeah, Tartarian heritage. This one's kind of interesting. The Khazar Dra of Kimamon, anyway, Algeria, is an ancient ruin that stands out in the middle of the ocean of dunes, and its history has been lost over the centuries. The only news related to it is that for a certain period of time it was occupied by the Jews of the Temimun region. But anyway, pretty cool looking. More Mudflood evidence, guys. Pretty cool though. When the Tartarians make an armor that is so elaborate, make sure they don't destroy it. You can see the classic feathers on the helmet. That was just like that picture I showed in one of the other videos where the giants that were visiting the body of Noah. One of the giants had a headdress of gold feathers just like this. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. Interesting also, like the openings on the chest. You know, is it a symbol of a peace armor? That, you know, you could kill this person. But that's interesting, I don't know. Or under armor, I don't know. Here's an interesting little piece of information. How the dates are different. The controllers changed the dates. There's a cool little story up here too, where this Russian translation right here. He says we are in the year 7531, a year since SMH question mark, or have 5,500 years of our history disappeared. What the hell is this SMH? SMZH or CMSM means creation of the world at the Star Temple, or in CWST, our ancestors timed this event to just a few hundred years ago. To avoid any misunderstandings, it should be emphasized that the term creation of the world is not literally referring to the creation of the world or universe. To understand this, you need to go back in time and recall the Great War, whose ceasefire of 7531 years ago marked this event and ushered in a new chronology. About 7,700 years ago, a war that lasted more than 150 years began, the Great War. An event that had been blasted from history maps took place between the Great Racinia. A large part of the area was later called Tartaria, so like Tartaria, which is the same. It's actually the same. And Armenians, ancient inhabitants of modern-day China. Not many know that the events described in the ancient text inspired Tolkien's writing for Lord of the Rings. On the autumn equinox, September 22nd of 1731 years ago, the ruler of Armenia, Armenian and Grand Duke of Racinia, USUR, signed a peace treaty between the fighting powers, and from this moment the chronology of from the creation of the world to the Star Temple appears, and a new era has begun in Slavic, Aryan, Vidius, Iranian Vestia. It's funny it says Iranian because Iranian used to be called Aryan, and if you go to the north, they're all Caucasian, as well as many other races writing in epic tales about the Aryan race and Armenia blood war. The fact that a new chronology began to date this event 7531 years ago, it itself proves that human history is much, much, much older than we are told. I mean, I wouldn't doubt it, bud, but yeah. Pretty interesting, guys. Changing dates again. Okay, well, you guys need to be the judge of this. Could this be pre-flood? I know there was human and animal DNA manipulation, but in my video, Tartarian Book of Zoology, I'd showed that there was a lot of human-animal hybrids, and that might be after the flood. Also, with the 1500s map, a small set of pictures from a French library from the Book of Tartaria, which is interesting. Giants and clones and prisons of all kinds. It seems that everything that was possible was castrated and imprisoned. It's kind of interesting. They've got a lot of humans and animal mixtures. You'll notice right out of the gate. The marriage of Palestine, Victorian, and this. It's interesting. Animals and humans mixing. You know, and this could be pre-flood. That's another reason why the earth was flooded. You know, it's just really interesting. And I'm not going to say it all was real, but, you know, there are chimeras. So, human elephants, right? Bird humans, like harpies, you know. Humans crossed with lions. I mean, really interesting. Really, really interesting. Fascinating, really. Humans mixed with frogs or something, or toads. Humans mixed with bulls, or it says Tartarus, right? I mean, satyrs. This is really interesting. Cherubs or something. Mixed with raccoons, I suppose. Just flying, looks like flying machines too. Monsters sleeping with humans, and the humans look like elven hears. So there's elves, you know, here's your Middle Earth kind of thing, but in a bad way. And this was happening, I mean, pre-flood too. And that's another reason why the earth was flooded and destroyed. But this one she has a snake tail, if you notice. You know, mine's a chimera's descriptions and revelation and stuff too. Beasts. But what if these beasts were real at one time? You know, it's pretty interesting. Just really, really interesting. Kind of your Bigfoot looking people, you know, half monkey or something. The dudes with the flying machines trying to catch the kid that fell out of the tree. Yeah, anyway. But if you haven't seen it, check out the Tartarian Book of Zoology on Quest for Tartaria.
Fighting the Tartarian Mafia in their homeland. They're cutting the head off the snake of the group that has been destroying this planet for generations.
Well, okay, now the juicy stuff, guys. In 1666, the Khazarian Jewish Antichrist was here, and the guy that came after him, the Antichrist after him, infiltrated the Catholic Church, and we're about to blow the top out of it. So check this out, and trying to find the connections. It's got to relate to the fall of Tartaria, possibly, or just the start of this Satanism that's on the earth now. All right, stay tuned, guys.
What does that have to do with Australia today, here and now?
Because they control this country like they control everywhere else.
My name is Chris Everard, and I just want to make this little video to discuss a subject which really basically the mainstream media have never ever covered, and the independent media are on the whole completely ignorant of this particular subject, and that is the underhanded secret influence of a group called the Zevites. Now, I make documentaries and I write books. That's what I do as my full-time job. And I've written extensively about the Zevite movement. Now, the Zevite creed, or the Zevite belief system, is pretty simple. It has its roots in Judaism, but it's not normal Judaism by any stretch of the imagination. What Zevites believe is that Satan is the good guy, and that they believe that the God of creation, which you see in the Bible, is actually evil.
The Russians, along with many other nations and many other militaries, are actually fighting a subterranean war to exterminate vermin from the planet.
They had a Messiah, a self-proclaimed Messiah, called Shabbatai Zevi. And that's where the Zevite label comes from for this group of people. And he preached in the 17th century that the Jewish Ten Commandments, the Mosaic law from Moses, should be turned on their head. So, in other words, the commandment of thou shalt not steal means, yeah, you can steal. Thou shalt not kill, you can kill. And it's very, very difficult for people to understand that right now there are Zevites operating behind the scenes in pretty influential jobs. I'm talking about jobs in the intelligence agencies, in governments, and in the Pentagon.
Mandates and COVID are just one part of a larger scheme to depopulate the planet. We have been robbed, we have been raped, we have been killed for generations.
I've been researching it, and I've made several TV documentaries about it, which you can watch on the Enigma channel. Now, Shabbatai Zevi, he basically crowned himself as the king of this Zevite movement. And in 1666 he moved from Izmir in Turkey to the Netherlands, and he gathered together an enormous international following amongst the Jewish communities of Spain, the Jewish communities of Germany, the Ashkenazis, the Hasidics. Many Jewish people actually followed Shabbatai Zevi, and his teachings came to the attention of the Muslim rulers of Turkey, because his hometown was Izmir in Turkey. When he returned back from his travels and he'd gathered together 100,000, 150,000 followers, and he'd been preaching incest. He'd been preaching brothers marrying and having sex with children. He'd been preaching all of this, what we call satanic kind of theology. Do as thou wilt, do what you want, kill someone if you want, lie, cheat, steal, do whatever makes you happy, is at the root of this Zivite creed. When he returned back to Turkey, he'd come to the attention of the Turkish Muslim authorities, and they arrested him. And they said, now listen, okay, you've gathered this international following of Jewish people who have thrown away all of the traditional laws of Moses and tipped everything upside down and inverted all these laws. And you've got a choice today. You can either convert to Islam, or we're going to put you to death. So he converted. Shabbatai Zevi converted to become a Muslim. And this created a big divide in his following, Jewish followers of Shabbatai Zevi amongst the Sephardic Jewish community in Spain. They kind of, couldn't believe that their Messiah, and he was the Jewish Messiah, would convert to Islam. However, this was an extremely snide and very devilishly intrepid thing for Shabbatai Zevi to do, because what he actually did is that he was able to then influence Islamic people. He dressed as a Muslim. He created this whole following in Turkey of tens of thousands of Muslims who today are called the Donma, D-O-N-M-E-H, Donma of Turkey. Now, on the outside, he would pray 5 times a day. He would, go to the mosque, and he, as I said, dressed like a Muslim. Behind the scenes, this gave Shabbatai Zevi a secret key, what Salvador Dali would call the secret lever, because during the day he was a pious Muslim, but at night he was loyal to his Judeo-satanic Zevite belief system. And yes, they were murdering people in human sacrifices. They were murdering children.
Now, Shabbatai Zevi, his hometown, might have been in Turkey, but he was actually born, can you guess where? Yeah, Ukraine.
And the mandate, directed by the government and enforced by the police and provided for by the big pharma, have been exterminating the people.
And as bad as he was, something became even worse. After he died, like a long time after he died, someone was born who was named Jacob Frank Leibowitz. And he was even worse than Shabbatai. He claimed to, in fact, be the reincarnation of Shabbatai. He claimed to be also the Messiah. And now he continued on this absolutely satanic way of thinking.
Jacob Frank Leibowitz is the mastermind behind a global network of satanic cults. He taught that the Creator God was evil. Jacob Frank proclaimed himself as the true Messiah. He vowed never to tell the truth. He rejected every moral law and declared that the only way to a new society was through the total destruction of civilization. Murder, rape, incest, and the drinking of blood were perfectly acceptable actions and rituals. His followers established the Marxist system and have infiltrated Islam and Judaism. He was the Messiah of the Illuminati.
Jacob Frank, together with Amschel Rothschild and Adam Weishaupt, together formed the Illuminati. On top of that, like, that's pretty bad, right? Forming the Illuminati. But he also, following in the same path as Sabbatai Zevi, he converted. He became a Catholic and absolutely corrupted the Catholic faith and brought in the child sacrifice, child trafficking, all the evils that we see that are apparent now today in the Catholic.
It's all part of the same plan.
Many of your former colleagues, previously of the Ozcons and many others, don't share the same views that you're speaking about today. In fact, they decry them and condemn them. Does that make you think twice about the path that you're on?
Church.
And the Zevites were basically then taken over by a guy called Nathan of Gaza. And then after Nathan of Gaza, the movement was taken over by a guy called Jacob Frank. Now, Jacob Frank was exactly the same as Shabbatai Zevi. He was from a Hebrew family, but he didn't convert to Islam. He converted to Catholicism. And what we see today is we see vast trafficking of babies and children. Many of them go missing, street children, in all of these countries which are controlled by the Vatican. This is a very important point, because Jacob Frank, who was a baron in Germany, he set up his own castle, he had a private army of 26,000 people. As I say, he was a Satanist, a Zevite Judeo-Satanist, following the teachings of Shabbatai Zevi. He was a baron in Offenbach in Germany, but he converted from Judaism to Catholicism, and that meant that from that era onwards, which is about the late 1770s, the followers of Jacob Frank, and he had 100, 150, 200,000 followers. As I said, he had a private army of 26,000 people, and they were all Judeo-Zevite Satanists. And what has happened is that we now have our present day situation, which is really serious. We have a Judeo-Zevite Satanist influence in the Catholic Church.
No, if they could read and write, put their heads out of their backsides, they would see for themselves. As we have said from the very beginning, do your own research, folks. As I've said many times, don't trust me. Make up your own mind. But read your own work.
They are sodomizing children as a matter of course, daily. I mean, they've paid out $1 billion in court cases, in settlements for child sex abuse within the Catholic Church. And what we can see is that now there is this new scandal. Again, it's not being covered in the mainstream media or even on the so-called truth movement news blogs. And that is that somewhere between 350,000 and 620,000 babies and children were trafficked by the Vatican in Spain and in Latin America. And what would happen is that Catholic nuns and Catholic priests, there's men and women involved in this Zevite movement, I can tell you that now. On the outside, as I say, they look like Catholic priests, but at night they're actually doing Zevite Judeo-satanic ancient rituals. And what these Catholic priests and these Catholic nuns did is that they set up clinics, they set up hospitals. Women would go in and have a baby, you know, they'd be pregnant, and they'd be drugged, they'd have anesthetic, and then when they woke, the women would be told, oh, there was a complication, I'm very sorry, your baby died. In reality, those children were born and they were trafficked. Many of them went unregistered. And this is a huge scandal. In Spain right now, at the moment, the figures are off the charts. It looks like there's hundreds of thousands of babies that have been trafficked, and hundreds of thousands of parents that were lied to by Catholic nuns and Catholic priests, and it was going on for decades. This is Zevitism at work, and it's something which I just wanted to tell you about in this film. And I've made many documentaries about the Zevite movement. It's very much alive. It influences the Vatican. It influences the world of Islam. In actual fact, there are Islamic people publishing blogs at the moment, and they are suspicious about the government of Turkey. They're saying that many of those ministers are Zevites.
Shortly after making these videos, Christopher Everard and Enigma TV, his company, I guess, they went silent about 3 years ago. And while the websites are still up, they're no longer encrypted. So you can check them out if you want, but I highly recommend against putting your personal information in there. When they're not encrypted anymore, that means they're not really active, and they're very vulnerable to hacking. So don't enter any personal information, because you're giving it to anybody that wants it. And if he's disappeared, I wonder why, after covering topics like this, you're putting yourself at risk. I suggest you don't do that. But these Sabbateans and the Illuminati, you know, they're very, very real, and they're very around today. And I think, you know, there's some important things here. Like, just as not all Jews are Khazarian, although most are, but even put aside the bloodline thing, clearly not all of them are evil, you know, but the ones that are truly evil. That the puppet masters of Hollywood and big banks and all of that share one thing in common. And I think we all know who they are and what it is, but here's a little reminder of what price Kanye had to pay, right, to bring you this information.
Ye, aka Kanye West, cancel list as of the 28th of the 10th, 2022. Here goes. Concert at Sophie Stadium, cancelled. Suspended on Instagram. Suspended on Twitter. Fox News documentary, scrapped. Banned from Fox News. Interview on the Shop, cancelled. Drinks Champs interview deleted. Banned from JP Morgan Chase. Boycotted by WME. Deal with Balenciaga, terminated. Boycotted by Vogue magazine. Dropped by CAA talent agent. MRC documentary, scrapped. Boycotted by UTA. Disavowed by ex-wife and family. Banned from Daily Wire. $1.5 billion Adidas deal terminated. $1 billion Gap deal terminated. Boycotted by Foot Locker. Disaffiliated from Def Jam. Assistant to Lloyd resign. Wax figure removed from museum. Banned from Kano Stem player. Banned from Skechers. But remember, the Jews have no power.
He's exposed a lot, but the fact that he's coming out with it now, with the things that are happening in this world today, is very important. Now, what's the big deal about the Federal Reserve? Well, let's take a look at all the people who took steps against it and what happened to them. And maybe you'll be able to put the pieces together too.
So when you get a book that's banned, that means there's something in there that you need to know. So this book is called History of Central Banking. What does Hitler, JFK, Lincoln, Gaddafi, Napoleon, Julius Caesar, Tsar Nicholas II have in common? They all tried to do state banking, and they all got either killed or thrown into a war.
So I think it's important that people understand that, yes, we have this satanic secret handshake club that call themselves Jews, that are pulling the strings, that are behind the scenes. They infiltrated the Catholic Church, the Jesuits, you name it, right? Even the Muslims, it's all infiltrated. Any evil that you see is from their corruption. You know, we have this secret handshake club of bankers, woke corporations. They put themselves at the controlling powers behind everything. But does that mean that all Jews are part of this mafia? Of course not. Just like all Italians are part of the mob. You know, but that doesn't mean that the Italian mob doesn't exist. Same as it doesn't mean that the Khazarian mafia doesn't exist. Of course it does. Of us.
You will not mask us like she just talked about doing. You will not quarantine the well or the sick. You will not keep our kids out of school. And damn right, you're not going to cripple our businesses anymore. Do you hear me? We will never lock down again. This is the hill we die on. Because this is America. This is the Constitution of America. And this is frickin' freedom. Never again.
So not all Jews, obviously, are part of this secret handshake club that are absolutely satanic and trying to take over, corrupt the world, enslave and genocide the Goyim. But there is a population that do think they're supreme. They think that they're God's chosen. And the problem when you think you're God's chosen is you think everyone else is under you. And if they're under you, they're not quite as worth as much as you. You can do anything to them. The sky's the limit for your depravity. You know, people like Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, two Jews that, you know, they're horrid child traffickers. Now, here's a victim that is explaining what it's like, and if there's an actual Jewish connection with this. And what do you think? Is there? Well, yeah, of course there is. Check this out. This is evil.
But I lost 20 pounds because I wasn't allowed to go get food. And when I called Ghislaine and asked why I couldn't eat there, she said, it's a Jewish country club. You're not Jewish. They're not going to serve you. This is how this woman spoke to me. Yeah, this is how these people think, Whitney. They, honest to God, think their DNA is better than everybody else's. I swear to you. It was a theme all the time with them. With Eileen Guggenheim, with, you know, Jeffrey Epstein, with Ghislaine. It was a theme. You know, Jeffrey was a lot less horrible than Ghislaine as far as a human being, like just being around, because she was raping just as many children.
So the country club, you weren't allowed to go because it was
know.
only for, you know, people of a certain religion
Jewish
and
people.
Ethnicity. Okay, so
Yeah.
that's
Religious.
unfortunate. Wow.
I mean, they could cut you down, and it was so morally devastating. Like, you know, like, you just felt useless as a human being when you were told you're nothing because you're not Jewish, you're stupid, you're useless, a useless white girl, a poor little peasant. You know, I mean, just the things that I was called, I was just like, I believed it, you know, because it was like a cult, the problem. Yeah, you wouldn't believe the way Jeffrey and Ghislaine spoke about African Americans. It was like, it made my skin crawl. Anybody who was not Jewish, and you're right about this, but the way they spoke about them, it was really horrifying. And it showed me a great deal about how these people truly believe that they're chosen to do something here. I don't know. It's unbelievable to me. I mean, and it was every one of them, the way they spoke. And one time I heard Isabel say to her mother, Eileen, Mommy, why do you call Maria a nobody? And she said, honey, Isabel, Maria is not a Jew. She is a nobody.
Well, you know, it is worth
so you
pointing,
can see why for about 20 years.
That type of stuff I might actually include just because the Maxwell family has
you
ties
should include
to this
it.
group
You
that's,
should include it.
What's it called? Chabad Lubavitch. And group
God.
openly talks about how only Jews are human and the rest of human beings are like cattle, basically.
So they wanted to divide and conquer. You know, that's kind of their M.O. But largely thanks to Kanye, and hats off for that, man. Or mad respect for that guy for taking the lumps he has and still going strong, not backing down. Now, if you're like me, you can no longer listen to the music we used to listen to before our eyes were open. You know, and it just feels tainted. It feels satanic. Well, maybe that's because we learned a lot about the music industry, but I think there's actually something more going on with this. I think it's actually tainted, like seriously tainted with satanic black magic.
I was the manager of Zodiac Productions, which Zodiac Productions, its name's been changed since then. I'm not even sure what to call it now, but it's the largest music conglomerate in the world. It owns RCA Records, Columbia Records, Motown Records, owns almost all the concert booking agencies in the United States. And that's not even the name of the company that owns it. The name of the company that owns it is Brenner Enterprises, and Brenner Enterprises is owned by Chase Manhattan. Chase Manhattan's owned by Standard Oil, and Standard Oil is owned by the Lords of London. You can track it on back. You kind of get the idea after a while. But I was the managing president of Zodiac Productions. It's one of my jobs as being one of these 13 people. Thus, I got to know many of the people who produce music and sing the music and play the music that you play. Now, one of the closest friends that I got during that time that I obtained was a man named David Crosby. I said, David, I'd like to ask you a couple questions. I said, I already know the answers, but I've been gone for 5 years. I'd like to know if certain things are still the way they were when I left. I said, do they still take the master to the temple room? Dave said, yeah. I said, do they still have the coven conjure demons into the master? He said, of course. I said, now, I got to know something. What's the main reason for rock music? He says, the same as when you were in, so that we can play spells on people that we couldn't cast spells upon. The master is a tape about as big as the top of this podium that looks like an overgrown 8-track that the album is cut on, and it's placed in a machine that produces and presses the records and the 8-tracks and cassettes that you buy. After it's been recorded, it's taken in. This is why a master's cut months in advance before it's released. On the full moon, it's taken in to a temple room about the size of this auditorium that is in every one of the major music companies, behind locked doors up in the executive office. And it's placed on an altar sitting in the north of the room, and a pentagram engraved in the floor. And 13 hand-chosen witches and wizards and a coven come in and conjure a principality or a power up, usually Regia or something like that, and order him to tell the demons under him to follow every record and every tape coming off of that master. I said, okay, one last thing. I've been hearing that you must be an initiated witch now to get a record contract. He said, that's right. He said, many of us that weren't total witches have to be witches now in order to produce music.
Courtney, do you know of ever involved in the occult or witchcraft or anything like that?
Absolutely, man. No kidding. She got really fascinated with it, especially when she was with MTV. And the head people at MTV were totally into satanic cults. The kind of stuff where they were having meetings, wearing red masks and sacrificing people and stuff.
Get the hell out of here, at MTV.
The heads of MTV, the people at the top levels of MTV, were definitely satanic cults. When MTV first started, there was a cult of black magic or dark magic. Let's call it dark magic. People at MTV, musicians that were going through MTV were couldn't get on MTV unless they were vetted by these people.
Really?
And they had definite proclivities to not let anybody in there unless they were able to manipulate them through these various cult practices.
Welcome to the Satanic Cult Awards, ladies and gentlemen. All hail the Dark Lord. Who wants to pray to the devil with me? Who's in with me? Come on, hey. Let me see those horns. Let me see those horns. Now take the hand of the person next to you. Come on, Leighton. Dear Dark Lord Satan, hope everything's good with you. I'm doing fine myself. Just want to say hi and ask you to grant tonight's nominees continued success in the music industry.
I'd like to, first of all, I'd like to thank Satan.
We'd like to thank you for this MTV award. It will take pride of place on my mantle next to my upside-down rubber cross and my signed copy of The Wicker Man.
So is the music industry truly satanic? Well, here's a little song called Kathy Don't Go to the Supermarket Today from all the way back in 1985. Now you tell me that these satanic Freemason douchebags aren't trying to tell you something here. Check this out. They knew. They always knew.
Hey guys and gals, get hip with a new craze. Register today for your very own personal 666 barcode implant. No more need to carry cash or credit cards. The price of the goods you buy is now automatically subtracted from your bank account by the computer terminal at the checkout stand. It's fast. It's easy.
Charter City is stunned by the sudden rollout of Rook Unlimited's most fantastic device ever. The Smart Mark. Throw your other devices away, because the Smart Mark is more than just a phone. It's part of you.
The ultimate weapon. The ability to depopulate the planet. To kill everyone but the chosen. By tampering with their DNA.
Through gene editing.
Why do such a thing and lie about it? Our own government.
Your own government lies as a matter of course, as a matter of policy. The Tuskegee experiments on black men in the 30s, Henrietta Lacks.
What are they trying to do?
That's the missing piece.
But it's not hard to imagine a government hiding, hoarding technology for 70 years at the expense of human life and the future of the planet. Driven not only by corporate greed, but a darker objective.
The takeover of America.
And then the world itself, by any means necessary, however violent, or cruel, or efficient. By severe drought, brought on by weather wars, conducted secretly using aerial contaminants and high-altitude electromagnetic waves, in a state of perpetual war, to create problem, reaction, solution scenarios to distract, enrage, and enslave American citizens at home, with tools like the Patriot Act and the National Defense Authorization Act, which abridge the Constitution in the name of national security. The militarization of police forces in cities across the U.S., the building of prison camps by the Federal Emergency Management Agency with no stated purpose, the corporate takeover of food and agriculture, pharmaceuticals and healthcare, even the military in clandestine agendas to fatten, dull, sicken, and control a populace already consumed by consumerism.
And I encourage you all to go shopping more.
A government that taps your phone, collects your data, and monitors your whereabouts with impunity. A government preparing to use that data against you when it strikes. And the final takeover begins.
The takeover of America.
By a well-oiled and well-armed multinational group of elites that will cull, kill, and subjugate.
Happening as we sit here.
It's happening all around us.
The other shoe waiting to drop.
It'll probably start on a Friday. The banks will announce a security action necessitating their computers to go offline all weekend.
Digital money will disappear.
They can just steal your money?
Followed by the detonation of strategic electromagnetic pulse bombs to knock out major grids.
What will seem like an attack on America by terrorists or Russia.
An invasion of the U.S.
The Russians tried it in '47.
Formulated the final stage of their sinister plan. In the year 2024, a global event will alter the course of mankind's future. The world will stand witness to a massive alien invasion. Thousands of projected holographic alien warships will blanket the skies, sending people into a global panic. Real military crafts within the holograms will inflict actual damage to the surrounding areas to sell the gimmick. And as a result of the ensuing human chaos, a one-world government will immediately form without any resistance from the people. They will be the new world order. Once this happens, we as a people will be doomed to enslavement and accelerated depopulation. With that said, the only hope for human salvation is to acquire and spread the knowledge of these activities and agendas. Resist, retaliate, then conquer this imposing enemy. The time is now, as humanity is rapidly approaching its final days.
Guys, you don't want to be part of the persecuted church, but you want to be part of the faithful church. In Revelation 2:9, it says, I know your works, tribulation, and poverty, but you are rich, and I know the blasphemy of those that say they are Jews and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. Do not fear any of those things which are about to suffer. Indeed, the devil is about to throw some of you into prison, that you may be tested, and you will have tribulation 10 days. Be faithful unto death, and I will give you the crown of life. He who has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says to the churches. He who overcomes shall not be hurt by the second death. And then the faithful church. Indeed, I will make those of the synagogue of Satan, who say they are Jews and are not, but lie. Indeed, I will make them come and worship before your feet, and to know that I have loved you. Because you have kept my command to persevere, I also will keep you from the hour of trial which shall come upon the whole world, to test those who dwell on the earth. Behold, I am coming quickly. Hold fast to what you have, that no one may take your crown. He who overcomes, I will make him a pillar in the temple of my God, and he shall go out no more. I will write on him the name of my God, and in the name of the city of my God, the New Jerusalem, which comes down out of heaven from my God, and I will write on him my new name. Yeah, the New Jerusalem, guys, I promise you, it's not in Ukraine, it's not in Tartaria. Stay faithful.